All right, let's dive into this 5-MeO-DMT research you sent over.
Yeah, happy to break it down with you.
Seems like a pretty potent psychedelic, huh?
Oh, for sure. And it's getting a lot of attention, especially with the therapeutic potential.
That's what really caught my eye, too. You've got all these scientific articles, and then there's all this online survey data, people talking about their experiences.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff.
And then you've got notes on, actual therapeutic applications. So where do we even begin?
Well, I think one of your articles actually points us in the right direction.
Oh, yeah. Go.
The Borkel study from 2024, it talks about set and setting, which is basically the mindset and environment during a psychedelic experience.
Right. I mean, that makes sense. Your mental state going in and where you are would definitely play a role.
Absolutely. And the study actually found that natural settings and being around loved ones, significant others, were linked to less psychopathology and better well-being afterward.
So it's all about creating a safe and supportive space?
It seems that way. And get this, over a quarter of the people in the study were actually using psychedelics on their own to deal with, psychological stuff.
Wow, self-treating. So I guess that kind of speaks to the whole potential for therapeutic use, right?
Yeah, definitely. People are seeking these benefits, even outside of, formal settings.
Makes you wonder what's going on in the brain with 5-MeO-DMT.
Well, it all comes down to serotonin receptors.
Oh, okay, break that down for me.
All right, so 5-MeO-DMT is super potent at activating these 5-HT2A and 5-HT1A receptors.
Okay, and those are?
Think of them like doorways in your brain, and 5-MeO-DMT is the key that unlocks them.
Ah, okay, so it just floods the brain with serotonin.
Not exactly. It's more like flipping a switch that starts a whole chain reaction.
Okay, I'm listening.
This chain reaction affects pathways called CAM-MP and an enzyme called PKA. They're crucial for synaptic plasticity.
Synaptic what?
Synaptic plasticity. Basically, it's your brain's ability to rewire itself to form new connections.
Whoa, so 5-MeO-DMT is rewiring our brains.
Oh, temporarily, yeah. That's why people experience such profound shifts in perception and, well, everything, really.
It's like shaking up your brain's snow globe, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Reminds me of that Stanford video, the one about psychedelics and functional connectivity, like opening up new pathways.
Exactly, and that's likely why 5-MeO-DMT has such intense effects. But there's another key thing here. It's metabolism.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. The articles mentioned how quickly 5-MeO-DMT gets broken down in the body.
Right. It's metabolized super fast by an enzyme called monoamine oxidase, MAO for short. That's why the trips are so much shorter compared to, say, psilocybin or LSD.
So instead of hours, we're talking minutes.
Sometimes, yeah. Like a quick burst of intense activity.
A rocket taking off and landing in a flash.
Exactly. And this rapid metabolism, it might actually be key for therapeutic use. Think about it, shorter duration, potentially fewer side effects.
I see what you mean. It could make it a more appealing option for therapy, especially for people who might be hesitant about longer trips.
It's definitely an area worth exploring further, but we can't just ignore the risks, even with a short duration.
Yeah, of course. Safety first, especially with something this powerful.
Absolutely.
I did notice in one of the documents, I think it was the cruise report from 2020, there were concerns about MDMA. Specifically, they mentioned MDMA-induced hyperthermia, where your body temperature gets dangerously high.
Right. That's a serious risk with MDMA. And while 5-MeO-DMT doesn't seem to have that same effect on body temperature, it's a good reminder that any therapeutic use would require careful monitoring.
Yeah, making sure the environment is controlled and safe.
Absolutely.
And that same document mentioned a few cases, though rare, of suicidal ideation in some of the MDMA studies. Just goes to show that even with promising therapeutic tools, there are always potential downsides.
Definitely. We need rigorous safety protocols, responsible administration, and thorough screening.
It seems like we're just starting to grasp the full potential of 5-MeO-DMT, both the good and the bad.
We're really just scratching the surface here.
It's fascinating stuff, though. Definitely seeing why it's generating so much buzz in the research world.
Oh, absolutely.
We've covered a lot, but I feel like we're just getting started, right?
We've only just dipped our toes in. Next, we can look at some of that online survey data you mentioned. It might give some real-world insights into how people are actually experiencing 5-MeO-DMT.
Okay, let's see what these surveys reveal.
Sounds good. These online surveys are pretty interesting, right?
Yeah, they are. Not scientific studies, of course, but still, lots of anecdotal data.
Right, and it gives you a sense of what people are actually experiencing with 5-MeO-DMT.
Yeah, and one thing that really jumped out at me was all these reports of profound spiritual experiences. People talking about feeling connected to everything.
Yeah, that sense of interconnectedness.
Exactly.
And that aligns with some of the early research, the idea that 5-MeO-DMT can induce these mystical type experiences.
Like seeing the true nature of reality, that kind of thing.
Right. And those experiences are being studied for their therapeutic potential too, especially for things like existential distress, helping people find meaning and purpose.
Makes you wonder if 5-MeO-DMT could be a tool for exploring those deeper aspects of human experience.
It's a fascinating possibility. It shows that we need to look beyond just the biological effects, Consider the psychological and spiritual aspects too.
And speaking of psychological, I keep thinking back to that Borkel study about set and setting. It seems even more important now.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about the substance. It's about the context, the intention, the environment.
They found that positive motivations, being in nature, having loved ones around, all that was linked to better outcomes.
Right. Fewer negative experiences, greater well-being.
It's like setting the stage for a positive journey.
Yeah, exactly. The environment and your mindset going in, they really can influence the experience.
Makes you think about all the work being done with VR therapy, creating immersive environments.
Oh, interesting.
Could we see something similar with psychedelic therapy, like using VR to guide someone through a difficult emotional process while they're on 5-MeO-DMT?
Wow, that's an intriguing idea. Tailoring the environment to the individual's needs.
Right. It's like we're moving away from that old model of take this drug and see what happens.
Definitely. It's becoming more holistic, more personalized.
Which reminds me of that other study, the Eng study from 2022.
The one about personalized medicine.
Yeah. They were looking at how genes can influence how people respond to SSRIs, antidepressants.
Right. Specifically the 5-HTTLPR gene.
And they found it could actually predict how well someone might respond to the medication.
It's pretty amazing. Imagine tailoring treatments based on your individual genetic makeup.
That's the future of medicine, right?
It's a big step towards it, for sure, especially for mental health, where treatment responses can vary so much.
Makes you realize how complex all of this is.
Yeah.
We're just starting to understand how these substances interact with our brains.
Yeah, it's like unlocking the secrets of consciousness.
Mind-blowing stuff. But we have to remember there are risks, too.
Absolutely. We can't just focus on the potential benefits and ignore the potential downsides.
Especially with something as powerful as 5-MeO-DMT.
Exactly. Caution and respect are key.
So let's talk about those risks. That cruise document mentioned MDMA-induced hyperthermia, which is obviously a serious concern with MDMA.
Yeah, but remember, 5-MeO-DMT doesn't seem to have those same effects on body temperature.
Right. But are there other things we should be worried about?
Well, even though it's different from MDMA, there's always the potential for adverse reactions.
Like those few cases of suicidal ideation reported in the MDMA studies.
Right, they were rare, but it shows how important careful screening, monitoring, and integration support are.
So it's all about responsible use and making sure the right support is in place.
Couldn't agree more. The setting, the guidance, the integration process, they're all crucial.
It's like we're exploring uncharted territory here.
We are, in a way. Lots of potential, but we need to proceed with caution.
This whole deep dive is giving me a lot to think about. We've covered so much, and it feels like we're just scratching the surface.
It's a lot to take in, for sure.
Right.
From the pharmacology to the set and setting to the future of personalized medicine, it's a fascinating field.
It feels like a paradigm shift is happening. The way we view consciousness, mental health, the potential of the human mind.
I think you're right. We're witnessing something truly remarkable.
Before we get too carried away, though, I want to circle back to those clinical trials you mentioned, the ones using MDMA for therapy, the ones for PTSD.
Yeah.
What can we learn from those?
I think they offer valuable insights into the future of psychedelic-assisted therapy and maybe even how we approach 5-MeO-DMT research down the line.
Okay, let's dive into those trials then. So these MDMA trials, focusing on PTSD, what's the thinking there?
Well, it seems like MDMA, when used alongside therapy, could help people process traumatic memories in a different way.
Okay, yeah. I mean, PTSD can be really tough to treat with traditional methods.
Exactly. And the idea is that MDMA can foster this sense of safety and empathy, even connection, which creates a better environment for dealing with trauma.
So it's not just about the drug alone, it's how it enhances the therapy itself.
Right. The therapy is still essential, but MDMA might help people access those painful memories with less fear and resistance.
It's like MDMA helps build a bridge between the patient and the therapist, making the relationship more trusting and open.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. And the early results are pretty encouraging. Some people are seeing significant improvements in their PTSD symptoms, even years later.
Wow, that's amazing. It could be a game changer for people who haven't found relief with other therapies. Do you think what we're learning from these MDMA trials could apply to 5-MeO-DMT research as well?
It's possible. I mean, they're different substances, but both MDMA and 5-MeO-DMT affect the serotonin system just in different ways. So things like safety protocols, choosing the right participants, and how we integrate the experience afterward, those lessons could be really valuable for future 5-MeO-DMT research.
Right, so we can build on what we're learning and make sure the research is done responsibly.
That's the goal.
Okay, so stepping back a bit, based on everything we've talked about today, what are the biggest questions that still need answers when it comes to 5-MeO-DMT and how it could be used?
Well, one of the most important things is long-term effects. We need more research to really understand what happens with repeated use, both in therapy and outside of it.
Yeah, making sure there aren't any surprises down the line.
Exactly. We also need to look at different doses, different ways of taking it, and figure out what works best for therapy.
And of course, always refining the safety protocols.
Can't forget about that.
Lots of work still to do, but the potential is huge.
It really is. We're at the beginning of a whole new era in mental health care, using these substances to heal and transform lives.
It's pretty exciting to be a part of it. Thanks for breaking it all down with me today.
My pleasure. And to everyone listening, keep asking questions, keep learning, and stay curious about the future of psychedelics and what they can teach us about ourselves.
Couldn't have said it better myself. This has been an incredible deep dive into the world of 5-MeO-DMT. We've explored its unique effects, its potential for healing, and the importance of responsible use. It's just the tip of the iceberg, though. There's so much more to discover, so keep exploring, keep learning, and who knows what amazing things we'll find.